Welcome to a brief understanding of Dungeons and Dragons starring me, Will Boyle. This is brought to you by Yugoloth Tabletop. I am one of the voice actors on the show. I play Moldavite. So yeah, this is just a brief understanding for people who don't know what D&D is and either want to know to watch the show or just want to know in general. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So Dungeons and Dragons is what we call a tabletop role-playing game or a TTRPG. What that means basically is it's a role-playing game. You just take on the role of something and that's what you do. It's also a tabletop game akin to a board game. It was created by Gary Gygax in 1974. It started off as an expansion for a couple of other games in what we call the Three Brown Booklets. It quickly exploded. However, people thought the game promoted witchcraft and Satanism, so that's why the game kind of stopped gaining popularity for a period of time. However, the game is now in its fifth edition and has had a huge resurgence thanks to the game being a lot easier to play and is a lot more newcomer friendly, but also through Critical Role and Stranger Things, two popular shows that are very focused in on D&D. D&D is very much a game that uses your imagination, almost akin to telling a story around a campfire, but everyone's adding in. Everyone makes a character pulling from many different fantasy ancestries, such as like humans, hobbits, also legally distinctly known as halflings, elves, dwarves. Characters also have a class which determines how you fight or how you use your abilities. Such include a fighter or like a knight, basically, a wizard or basically a mage, a rogue who it basically acts as like a thief, and a cleric, which is basically kind of your support healer type person. You also have different ability scores, those being the physical ones being strength, dexterity, and constitution. Strength is how strong you are, dexterity is how fast you are, and constitution is how many hits you can take. And your mental scores are intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Intelligence is book smarts, wisdom is how kind of your street smarts, and charisma is social intelligence, stuff like that. Another one of the most important elements of this game is dice. Dice are to basically determine how good you are at what you do. It adds a part of randomness or chance to the game. You determine how you do things by rolling dice, the main one being the 20-sided dice. That's the one you roll the most. There's also a 12-sided dice, a 10-sided dice, a percentile dice, an 8-sided dice, a 6-sided dice, which is just your regular die, and a 4-sided dice. Every character has something called a modifier, which with what they roll, that uses your stats, as we talked about before, and you add those to the roll itself you make. So, for example, Moldavite has a +6 to perception. That basically means that he will be adding a 6 when he rolls a d20 when he makes a perception check. It's supposed to represent how, if you're good at something, you're more likely to succeed at what you're good at, but if you're not good at something, you're more likely to fail at that. There's two main roles you can take on this game, the players versus the game master or the GM. Think of the GM as like the dealer in a game of cards. The players basically are the ones playing the main characters of the story. The person has one player character that they are the ones playing, controlling the actions of. They interact with the plot, and they're going to be the ones who are being asked to roll a lot of the dice. Versus the game master is the main storyteller, basically in charge of the whole story. They know where it's going. They also play most of the other characters and also the villains too. They tell the players when to roll dice or what to roll the dice for. Another thing that makes D&D somewhat non-newcomer friendly is there's a lot of lingo involved. Party is just all the players as a collective. A nat 20 or a crit success is when you roll a 20 on the d20. That means whatever you do, it's an instant success. Also, in combat, you'll be doing a lot more damage if you get a nat 20 on a hit. A nat 1 is a critical failure. That's when you roll a 1 on the d20, and it's an instant fail no matter what you do. DM/dungeon master is an alternative colloquial term for the game master. A NPC is a non-player character, characters that the GM controls. Initiative is something you roll at the beginning of combat to determine what order everyone goes in. HP is hit points, how many damage you can take before you go down. And as I went over earlier, a check is just a roll to see how good you are at something. And that is the end of the video. I hope you learned something, and I hope that kind of demystifies the world of Dungeons and Dragons for you. Please check out Yugoloth Tabletop wherever podcasts are found, and thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy!